Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 18th episode of Conceptualism. Today, I have with me a creative person who works in finance. Doesn't sound like it would go together, but it does. So I'm so excited to be speaking to you. And thanks for being here with us, Brandon.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, what is your practice as a financial analyst? Like, what kind of problems or what kind of investments are you generally advising people about?
So for me, being a financial analyst versus an advisor are two separate things. The
Okay.
analyst is more back behind the scenes, that
Uh-huh.
is actually just like watching trends. Me as an advisor, I'm more client to agent type of relationship.
All
So
right.
usually the type of investments that I usually deal with is specifically just mutual funds, but more of how it really resonates more of a creative process is just really just identifying what their goals are, because obviously with money, it always seems to be related towards emotion, right?
Mm,
One of the things that I've really learned is how the most important organ to really have when it comes to investing isn't really the brain, it's the gut and heart, and how certain times when I deal with people, it's absolutely true. So there's a guy by the name of Peter Lynch that said that he's a famous investor actually. And the key things that I really look towards is when I sit down with people, it's not just always about like graphs and the best stock to buy and the return. It's really regards to their goals and dreams that they want to accomplish, and just making sure that their overall plan be able to proceed through, and then make sure that I work with a plan that makes their current needs that seems suitable for them, and take it's similar to a creative or like process in regards to, okay, so this is how you, like, in terms of if you're a performer and you want to be able to perform against around your audience, you don't do the same performance at the other venue that you adjust it towards the way that the audience would see fit. So that's how I really operate in terms of what their goals are, what do they want to be able to accomplish in their realistic timeframes, and more specifically, just be able to address their risk and how much they can really afford. So that's how I really operate in a general sense of things.
right. And so there's different levels of risk. You can have a balanced risk portfolio, you can have low risk, you can have high risk, and I guess it all sort of depends on, well, like you said, what you could afford to lose, and also what your goals and ambitions are with the investment.
100%. 100%.
So, like, I guess, like with anything in business, you're building relationships with clients. Like, the reason that people would come to you is because of the relationship you've built, or the or you know or like or the because they trust that you're able to work with them to create this, like, it's a collaboration. And I think like all the most interesting things happen in collaborations, when you have a fruitful and interesting collaboration.
Yes, the one thing that I always live by in my career of working in this industry is
Hmm.
that trust will lead to transactions and credibility always closes. And if I don't necessarily get that between the person that I'm either introduced towards or trying to set an arrangement for, then no deal. Because the most important thing that is obviously key is money. And you don't give money to someone that you don't obviously trust, right? The way that the best analogy that it could be able to create is that when somebody gives me their money to watch over, it's like I'm babysitting their kids.
Right.
And if you have to decide, and if you, for people that are watching, if you have to decide that you have to leave your kids, and especially in this situation being a COVID situation, like how would you trust that certain person that's watching over your kids, right? So make sure that the trust is established first. Don't care of what how much you want to get out of it, how much you want to put away. Just making sure that we have a trusting relationship between myself and the person I'm dealing with.
So you work kind of like, as a, like, you work for yourself, or like kind of as a freelancer. Like, you're not tied down to any particular institution. And I think that's a bold choice. I think that's an interesting choice, because I mean, maybe it would be safer, or in some ways, like, you would have I don't know, like maybe there's more security in working for somebody, but like I like that you decided to take, take the risk of working for yourself, because I think that that shows that you believe in what you're doing, like that you think that it'll be successful.
Yeah, that's another key thing too, because like an advisor that works at the big five banks,
Okay.
their average salary, like they have a comfortable salary. It's not much, like it's over like 35 grand in bonuses. However, the restrictions of just working specifically at a bank is that all the investments that you typically have access towards is only within the bank that you sell through.
Right.
Versus being independent and working as a broker, you have different types of resources and different types of investment firms. It's kind of like if you were to really have your favorite flavor of ice cream, like if I have to ask for you, Afraz, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Mint.
Imagine if I opened up my own Baskin Robbins and it had a really nasty flavor that it's only available and there's 24 buckets in it, like blueberry rhubarb. You wouldn't want to come to my store, wouldn't you? So the key thing is just like sort of like that ice cream analogy is just that I want to make sure that I have all the 31 flavors accessible for the people that want it.
Right. But what if I get addicted to blueberry rhubarb and suddenly it becomes my new favorite ice
So
cream
like
flavor, and like
I
and
gotta
like
make you the best rhubarb to please you. Then that's the key thing.
and then like I started helping you sell this ice cream by like telling all my friends, like, hey, this is the best blueberry rhubarb in town, like you should go here, and suddenly your business is booming.
Fair enough, right? It's a win-win.
Yeah, I'm joking, but I mean, I think it's good that you have access to all these different things, because I think catering to people's wants and needs, and also to the market, like I think that's really smart, and like and it makes sense to me. Like, if I was a financial analyst, or a financial advisor, I think I would also want the freedom to offer all the services that I possibly could. You know,
Have
so
options. I
yeah,
think this is
exactly.
one
Yeah, and
thing.
it's like it's also the idea that you don't put all your eggs in one basket, you know.
Yeah. In that type of analogy, that's also key, right? So always have options.
Definitely. So I want to know about like your childhood, and what did you want to do when you were, when you were younger? Like what was your dream? Like what did you want to do?
For me, my story, and especially how I came across this industry, is an interesting one because growing up as a kid, like I was a very like easygoing type of like kid. Like I'd like to have fun, like to play games and do all that. But when it came down to really deciding what my career wanted to be, I was so lost. Like any other young, you become either a physiotherapist or nurse, because that's traditionally what my family background is, and especially growing up in a traditional Filipino type of household as well, right? So for 2 years, I tried studying kinesiology and health sciences and seeing that I'm going to be the physiotherapist. I'm going to be working at a hospital for 9 to 5 and so forth. But that didn't work out. And like any other person that doesn't know what they want to do, you're kind of confused. And it led me to the point of me actually dropping out of school. So how I came across the industry was by chance. And I had a friend of mine that was working in an office who was looking for more agents to add on to his firm. And it was at the time that he met me at a very interesting time. Because back then, 6, 7 years ago, I wasn't able to talk or have a conversation like this for no more than like 2 minutes. So it took a lot of convincing from him when I met with him, and at the same time, it was with my girlfriend as well. And how he tried to convince me, like, you know what? Here's the reality check. You're not necessarily doing anything right now. You don't necessarily have work. Why not just be able to work with me part time and then figure out what you want to do like later on?
Right.
But then it was that all that guilt and all that fear of just saying like I'm this young like 19, 20-year-old kid that doesn't know how to have a proper conversation with people and stutters. How can I be that guy dressed up in a suit and like be able to manage people's money? So it took a lot of upfront convincing for him, and my girlfriend was the deal breaker too, saying just that like, you know what, he's giving you an opportunity, you may as well take it, right?
Right.
So what happened was that we the orientation, and it wasn't really just about me making just a lot of money, but the impact of how much people didn't really have the advice that they needed, right?
Right.
For example, for someone to actually go to the bank, for them to actually pay attention to you, you have to have more than a million liquid. Even if you have at least $1 million, then this is a true story. Like a friend of mine, he has like over like a million to his name, but the advisor that he's working at one of the banks, he's considered to be last priority because he has so much other like clients and people as well. So if you have less than that, what does that mean for you, right? And I got to see that up front in regards to how my family members didn't really get the proper education that they needed.
Yeah.
And the more eye-opening part, especially in the investment side, I met somebody that had over close to above $85,000 of his life savings tied to an investment that was with the bank. The problem was is that he was giving all these promises and all these guarantees, but when he looked at the statements, his $85,000 dropped down to over 83 grand. And what was crazy is that the person that was handling the investments, this work at the bank, left for another brokerage and was never to be found. And that's when I started to. That was the first time that I witnessed just like, oh my god, doesn't matter how much you currently have, there's not much attention towards these people that really need the help. So that's when I started to get more serious in terms of studying for my licenses and really learning this craft and be able to perfect my processes and help and actually helping people. And how coincidentally my girlfriend's also an art, so I've started to mesh and make it more creative for people to understand, because in all honesty, when it comes to learning about finance and economics and investing and insurance, it's very dry material when you read it traditionally from the books. And for some people that don't really care, they look at it as if it's still reading braille gibberish or a really boring novel. So what I do for people is that I make it interactive for them. Obviously, I want to make sure that there's trust established towards that, but making sure when I'm explaining these specific things that I'm not speaking at a PhD level, I'm speaking at your level
Right.
in terms of your understanding. So that's me in the nutshell.
Well, that's, I mean, I think that idea of speaking to people on their level, whatever that happens to be, I think that's a very powerful and very useful life skill. Because, if you're talking above somebody or you're talking over their head, then, you're going to alienate them and they're not going to want to listen to you. So,
A lot of people that got clients that have that same experience. They were either working with somebody, they seemed a little bit more older. They seem to have like the like more higher, like kudos to them, right? But if you're not connecting the way that you sort of a level of resonance, forget it, because obviously you're not establishing equal ground in that sense.
yeah, so I guess like this idea of making things creative and like bringing the ideas to life, you know um I think that makes a lot of sense. Um and I guess like that's probably one of the reasons, that people would come to you, because you're explaining it in a way that they can relate to. So I think the relatability factor is so important as well. Like, because if you're just talking in
Mm.
numbers, a lot of people can't think in numbers. They just, it doesn't like, it just, that way, that language is not something that they're fluent in. It's like if you were to speak, if you were to speak to someone in a foreign language that they couldn't really understand, and you were trying to explain a concept to them, it's really hard. So you have to explain it in terms that they would be more familiar with, or terms that they can more relate to. So, um, so yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think that's really powerful.
Very true. Very true.
And
I don't speak in numbers. I speak in terms of like what they want to envision. That's the key thing.
right, and like the clients that sort of come to you, are they referred to you, or do you sort of advertise your services, or like, or how does that work, like in terms of
It's
like
a bit of mix of everything. So
okay.
it was first through friends and family, then through networking events,
Mm-hmm.
then through referrals.
Mm,
So it's a mixed bag of everything. So and
right.
learning from the social media game as well. So just learning how to do posts, be able to get game followers from that and like develop clientele. So that's recently just been done. But
Yes.
for majority of my career, I'm very face to face. Like
Right.
I everywhere that I went to, I kid you not, when I first started, like before this whole social media thing was happening,
Yeah.
I was the person that when I came across within 3 feet of somebody, I'm having a conversation with them. It didn't matter where it was, whether the thought it was like in the mall, whether the thought that was just on my way to somewhere. I always had a conversation with them, and then uh, like throughout the end of the day, we usually collect like 10, 20 contacts out of it. and then filter out to see who'd be interested towards that, and be able to refer out. So that's how I first started out in the terms of my prospecting game.
Well, that's yeah, that's really interesting. And actually, we met at a networking event.
Yeah. So for the past couple of years, majority of my clients that come from the networking events in terms of building relationships, what they want, and be able to go forward. Because obviously, the key thing that people really have to understand in the business game is that it's arts and science, right?
Mm,
Arts is the fact that you have to understand in terms of being a people person, just making sure that you have good emotional intelligence. That's a key thing, right? Because like you have to know how to deal with people.
and empathy.
The science part about it is to be able to know the numbers, right? Not you can't. I wish we live in a world that you can work with everybody, everybody becomes your client, and you can make money that way, but that's not the case. It's odds in and odds out, and just be able to have an even balance of arts and science towards in terms of people and understanding what your numbers are.
Definitely, definitely. And like, do you also like deal with I don't know, speculative investments, or like investments on on the stock market or anything like that, or do you just primarily do mutual funds and like.
There are mutual funds that I do. There are specific sort of niche type of investments that are like more clean energy or more like it's something
Mm,
called private pools. I do have access towards that through like through my sales team and the different firms that I usually work with.
right.
So that's also an option. But for me personally, I stick to what works. So the access of mutual funds that I have with through the different like, brokerages that I work through, they've been doing pretty well as a person that uses for themselves and as well as for the clients that like I usually really manage and work with.
Got you. Got you. um so you're talking about this intersection of like art and science, and the idea that you have these two worlds coming together. So I guess, I mean, I guess you're using both the left and right side of your brain. You're using both the creative and language and sort of art side, and also the numbers and the data processing and all of that kind of stuff as well. So so like, you're sort of.
Yes, yes. And mix and match with the way I look at it is just that like arts is my left hand glove and the science is my right hand glove. So it's
Right.
like sort of a boxing analogy in that sense.
Right. And you can also think of it in terms of chess, where like you're using both sides of your brain. There's the tactical, there's there's a strategy side of it. There's just the art of it, the form, but then there's also the fact that you want to win, in a game of chess. So like, yeah, it's interesting. Like, I've always thought that, like, the market and the way that you invest money and deal with money is kind of like a game, because it is like, well, I mean, obviously it's real because it has tangible effects. It affects people's lives, but at the same time it's also this intangible thing, and it's like, it's kind of like a game of Monopoly, but like in life. Yeah.
It is. It really is. You said it clear and simple as that. It really is. It feels like Monopoly for real life.
And like, do you test your strategies, like, okay, so let's say you want to try a new strategy. Would you try that like on your own, with your own money, or like or would you be comfortable trying new strategies with your clients' money, or like with your, with the investments that you hold?
For me, I'd rather test it on myself first,
Right.
just
That makes
before going.
sense.
Like when it comes to choosing a different mutual fund or being able to, yeah, just to see where it works within the next year or so, or be able to work with like the firms I'm with, just to show like an actual like hypothetical like what would this scenario look like in the next 5-10 years, and if it makes sense, then I move forward with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And how, like, okay, so I know, like, for example, in real estate, the way that the realtor makes money is through like a commission. Is it the same sort of concept with like being an advisor, or how does that work? Hey,
Sorry about that.
hey, no worries. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I think it was something with the connection.
Yeah, I think it was the connection. Sorry, you were saying?
Oh, I was just asking, so you know how like if you're a realtor, the way that you make your money is through like a commission. So I was wondering like is it the same mechanism with being an advisor? Like is it a commission-based thing or like how does it work? Hello? You there? Uh, hey, sorry, I don't know what's going on. I think there's something with the weird with the connection.
Yeah, I think it's the connection. Sorry.
Yeah, or maybe the internet gods don't like the question that I'm asking.
Maybe it's that. The internet gods of Rogers and all.
Yeah.
What you were saying about realtors?
Yeah, so I was the question that I was asking is like so like with realtors, you know, they make their money through commissions, you know, like they sell a house and they make a commission. So is it a similar thing with being an advisor or like what's the way that like that it works?
So there's two types of advisors that usually go independent. One is a fee-based one.
Hmm.
So fee-based one is that when you sit down with them, they do a proposal, they charge like a flat fee. It's like sort of just like working with a lawyer and accountant, right?
Okay.
A flat fee or hourly fee based on their services. Commission-based advisors. So that's a consult, show them the portfolio proposal. I don't charge because like that's just more of like a free consult. And usually, how I typically get paid is when they buy into a service. So like when they invest like $1,000 into a TFSA or RSP, when they buy life insurance and so forth. So I typically get paid commission.
Got it. Got it. Okay. I see. I see. And what kind of music do you listen to? Like what kind of music do you normally listen to?
I listen. Oh, I'm an interesting guy. Hip hop, rap, R&B, a little bit of rock. For my anime nerds, I listen to anything of the Naruto openings, and especially in this during this time of the season, a lot of Christmas music. I love that. And
Nice.
if there's someone that's looking for something interesting to listen to, there's something called trap jazz. His name is Mistego.
That's really cool. That's really interesting. I'd like to check that out. Maybe afterwards you can send me a link, or I can even just Google the name.
Yeah, that too. Music's really good.
How do you spell that? The artist you just mentioned.
Masego. I'll send you a link. Okay.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I guess like when you're working or like when you're you know when you're thinking about stuff, do you have like thinking like a thinking music or like a thinking process or like something that you do to like you know to facilitate the process of like when you're analyzing something or like when you're working on something, or
So
do you
with
kind of need total
Mistego,
silence?
sometimes I need total silence, but sometimes it depends on like my mood. If I feel that I need total silence, just need to get things done, then I'll do that. But if I'm feeling kind of mood, then I'll play some songs from Mistego actually. So it has there's this one really good instrumental, something called Sunday Vibes. Oh my god, so good. I vouch for his music more than my business.
Well, that's really cool. And like, what kind of like poetry or visual art do you like? Do you like do you like expressionism? Do you like do you like impressionism? What kind of what kind of art do you enjoy?
Very much into spoken word. I'm not
Nice.
not necessarily specific in regards to like the specific genre.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with the Ruby Francisco. That's one person that I like listening to.
Okay.
Another local artist within Toronto is name is Dwayne Morgan. I love his stuff. He actually did a whole like written piece when Obama visited to Toronto last year.
Okay. Nice.
Dwayne Morgan, I like. So shout out to him if he's watching this. uh, art wise, because of my girlfriend, more into visual art as well because she works as an art teacher at a little art studio in our area of Scarborough.
Uh-huh.
So that's I admire those type of arts. Performance art I like anything with like choreo, dancing,
Mm.
R&B stuff. My cousin used to do a lot of like hip hop dancing. So
Nice.
I tried doing that myself. It wasn't really that good, but I admire just watching that for that. Uh, a lot of I'm big on culture, like specifically within my own heritage of the Filipino community. There's a lot of different dances in the way that we portray our dances and how we portray our cultural art. And yeah, I'm an open-minded type of guy. So, but specifically in those areas, but I'm open to anything pretty much.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And what's your favorite hood in Toronto? Like, what's your favorite neighborhood?
I
And
could
don't
say
say Scarborough.
Scarborough, but but time out for the people that want to come because but just like I I, I like Midtown. Midtown I like Young and Eglinton. That's my spot.
Nice.
Very nice place to go out and have like a good eat and just hang around.
Definitely. Yeah.
And parts of downtown too.
Yeah, I guess my favorite spot, like, in Toronto,
We're good.
is
Yeah.
probably Kensington Market, and particularly there's this tiny little record store, and like where they also sell Japanese like scrolls and like and art, and I would say like that.
For us,
Can you hear me?
the internet got
I cut out
hey
there.
yeah, it cut out for just a little bit. We're good. Yeah, Japanese food I love. There's this place in the annex that I like going to. It's called Tondo Ramen. I love ramen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of that.
Nice, very cool. Um, Well, and it's interesting too, because like we have a mutual friend, or like Wayne, the photographer, and it's kind of hilarious because you said to me that like you'd known him like forever, like since you guys were young.
Yeah. Wayne Wu, good old Wayne Wu.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of interesting how these connections happen because it's like sometimes it's like it's kind of almost, yeah, it's weird, like you have these mutual connections, and it's like it's remarkable because like it's a small world, it's like we live in like a global village.
It is really a small world, actually. So yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. It was really interesting, and yeah, maybe after the pandemic is over, we could hang out with Wayne and me and you, and go out for a coffee or something. That would be so funny. That'd be really nice.
In a non-COVID world, yeah, it'd be pretty perfect. But I appreciate me having on here. Really just I love getting the time to just chat and connect. But thank you so much, Frost. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. All right, take care.